one of the great things about Fretwork is that we play, or we try to play, everything that we can on the viol, from the earliest music that was actually written for the viol at the beginning of the 16th century, right through to music composed, well, there's two pieces that are not quite finished, even as we speak, that are being written for us. And we want to be able to bring the viol to as many people as possible. We are evangelists for the instrument, if you like. And to that end, we go right through the history of music, right through 17th, 18th century, and we play a few pieces from the 19th century that can just about fit on viols. And I mean, for instance, we play the La Fille aux cheveux de lin by Debussy, and Prelude and Fugue by Shostakovich, and some folk song arrangements of Britain, and so on. So we want to expand the repertoire as wide as possible, and at the same time bring the great core repertoire that we have, which is the English 16th century music, 16th and 17th century music written especially for the viol, to a wider public as well. There was Simon Wood, Thomas Mex, Richard Clark, and one George. And those are the players who accompanied Drake throughout the journey. And their function, I'm sure they must have been seamen as well. I can't believe they were just sitting around waiting to play the viol. I'm sure they lent their hands at the sails and so on. But they, as well as entertaining Drake with playing music, consort music of the time, they would accompany him singing hymns. Drake was an extremely religious man, and part of his zeal was a sort of a fierce Protestantism, and he really hated the Catholics with a sort of a real vengeance. And he spent an hour a day praying and singing hymns, and the viols accompanied his hymns. The idea is to present and contrast the severe and austere musical style of the mid-16th century, and particularly the hymns of the time, which are very they're very monosyllabic. I mean, monosyllabic is the wrong word. Very homophonic. They set each word, each syllable with a note, and there's very little counterpoint, very little movement. It's very organized so you can understand the words, and contrast this music with what we might imagine to be the exotic and sensuous music of the natives that they encountered on their journey. There's one point in Drake's journal where we know there was a musical encounter in Java, in that Drake took his musicians ashore and had them play music to the king of Java, and then a few days later the Javanese musicians came on board the Golden Hind and played music to Drake. And he writes something like, though it was very strange, yet was it sweet and delightful. And it must have been a gamelan that he heard. It's most likely to be a Javanese gamelan. Of course, we don't know exactly, but it's this contrast and this wonderful, extraordinary meeting of cultures in the 16th century. It's almost unimaginable in a way how people who have never heard any other kind of music in their lives, the English sailors and Drake, suddenly come across this music from, or it must have seemed like from another planet, from this, unimaginable kinds of music. So Orlando's job, in a way, in this program was to imagine those musics and get the viols to make sounds that evoke that. And then in between all that, we play original 16th century consort music and the hymns and everything between, so that we build up the contrast between the musics through the journey, and the journey is described in musical terms. And William Laws, of course, is in some ways the apogee of this whole style. A musical genius, cut short, very, very short in his an early life. He died at the Siege of Chester in the Civil War, fighting on Charles's side. He was a great friend of Charles I. They were born just 2 years apart. Charles played the viol as well, and Laws went to Oxford with the king when the court moved to Oxford, and set out from Oxford to fight in Chester and got a bullet in the head, and that was it. But the music that we have from him is absolutely extraordinary, absolutely idiosyncratic. The contemporaries refer to him as breaking somewhat the rules of music, and he really does. He really is wild and extraordinary, but beautiful and extraordinarily memorable. I mean, a music that you won't forget. With Emma, we're going to. It was the opening program. We're going to present music just by two composers, by Purcell and by William Byrd. And they were, one of the things that links them is the fact that they were both called fathers of English music. Two of the greatest English composers ever, and two great song composers. Purcell is very well known as a song composer. Byrd, perhaps a little bit less so, but he invented the form known as the consort song, with one voice accompanied by 4 or 5 viols. And we'll be presenting all the great Byrd consort songs in this program, including the great one called "My Mistress Had a Little Dog," which is quite well known, a very humorous and beautiful song, but many others as well. We've been working with Claire for a number of years now. She's a young, well, I say young, well, I mean, she's recently appeared on the scene mezzo-soprano, and has a fabulous voice. And we made a record a couple of years ago with her called "The Silken Tent," in which we let our fantasies run wild, and we recorded everything that we wanted, Schubert songs and Wolf songs and so on. And so we're going to reproduce most of that recording in the program on Friday night. And so it'll include everything from Byrd through to Goughs, and a couple of songs by her father, Stephen Wilkinson, who was a very well-known and much admired conductor of choirs in Manchester. When I was at university in Manchester, I remember him very well, and little did I think that I would be playing with his daughter, many years later. But and he's written 2 beautiful songs, which he's arranged for voice and viols, and we'll be playing those as well. But it's enormous fun to do. It requires a tremendous amount of virtuosity on the part of the players. It's very difficult. It's not, but very often it's very difficult in terms of an ensemble. It's the ideas are thrown around all 6 instruments. There's only very few moments when actually all 6 players are playing at the same time. But the ideas of the music can be thrown around them, or each individual player. So it requires really quite precise ensemble playing, which is quite a challenge. But we're looking forward to it, honestly.